and welcome back to another episode of what graphics card did my local CEX have in its shop window, which I purchased and slapped in a mid-range gaming rig to test out its gaming capabilities. This time we've got ourselves a GTX970 and more accurately MSI's GTX970, which I must say looks quite cool, though a little bit out of place unless you were going for a red and black PC build 9 years ago. Well, even now, to be honest with you, I think it still does look great with its dual fan design. The GTX970 launched on September the 19th, 2014 and was built on the 28nm process. The MSI version does have a small factory overclock with core frequencies of up to 1114 MHz. There's a 1753 MHz memory and a 1253 MHz boosted clock. Around the back you can find a DisplayPort 1.2, an HDMI 2.0 port, a dual-link DVI-D and a dual-link DVI-I port. It can produce resolutions of up to 4096 by 2160, but for testing purposes and gaming you're not going to be getting above 1920 by 1080, so don't try it. It's virtual reality ready, though we didn't test any of those games here today because, well, I don't have access to a virtual reality headset or even the room to use one here. It uses 145 watts of power and features SLI capability, NVIDIA PhysX. It's DirectX 12 compatible. It features NVIDIA's Pure Video HD technology, and finally PCI Express 3.0 architecture. It features 1,664 shading units, 104 texture mapping units, and 56 ROPs. NVIDIA has enabled 4GB of GDDR5 memory with the GeForce GTX 970, which are connected using a 256-bit memory interface, though however there was a bit of controversy over their alleged 4GB of memory, where the card sat closer to 3.5 gig, and NVIDIA had to pay every person who ever bought one back $30 for their mistake. Wait, does that mean I can get some money back as well? Despite this though, the card was extremely popular back in the day, 9 years, 10 years ago now, and topped Steam charts for some time, and is kind of why it did actually catch my eye in the first place in the shop window. You can still get game-ready drivers for this card through the GeForce Experience software, which threw back version 566.03 just in time for a bit of Dragon Age the Veilguard. Not that I'm going to be playing that game here probably because it's not even out yet, but still, always good to keep the drivers up to date. And for the sake of transparency, I am running this 970 with a Ryzen 5 5600X with 16GB of RAM memory, and my games are all stored on a basic 2.5mm SSD, if that's to make any kind of difference, but maybe probably not at this point. So let's put this card to the test and run some modern games from 2024, starting with some Black Ops 6, and that's only because no one really plays Apex anymore, do they? Black Ops 6 did give me some jip. The game ran, don't get me wrong, and when it wanted to work, it ran well. I had to run everything at a low graphical preset, except strangely enough static reflections on high, which the game chose for me automatically. Must not be many mirrors in Black Ops 6 then, and the resolution at 1080p. Now it may have been the game, but I did experience a lot of crashes, especially when trying to join a multiplayer game. The gameplay I did manage to capture was from zombies, of which I got to round 6, fought some spiders, and then it began to stutter and again resulted in a crash. It could have been the game, it might have been me. Either way, it threw back an average FPS of 61, which is decent for such a new game, with a 1% low of 40. Counter-Strike 2 worked like a dream, and I ran two separate tests, not that they were too different from each other. The first test I ran a resolution of 1920 by 1080 and a medium graphics preset and got an average FPS of around 147. And the second test I bumped up the graphics preset to high and got an average FPS of 134, though this did dip when more things were happening on the screen. It was a good experience overall, though I would definitely stick to a medium preset to get that higher FPS rate, as this is a highly competitive game. F1 2024 unfortunately did not work with the MSI Afterburner overlay because it's an EA game and they've never seemed to like me, but Steam reported me an FPS rate of around 70 to 80 while blasting around Silverstone at 1080p with a medium graphics preset. Also, please ignore my horrendous driving. It was the first time launching this game on the PC and all of my assists were switched on, so the car was awful to drive. It did look smooth though. FC25 because why not, right? Also terrible game by the way, but it's modern, so I thought I'd give it a try. As you can see, it ran a lovely locked 60 FPS all the way through. Shame I didn't score, but anyway, it was running at 1080p on a high graphics preset, and I must say it did look quite good. Fortnite, as usual, stuttered in the lobby and stuttered while flying down from the bus to the ground. Once on the ground though, it gave me an average FPS in the 90s and was smooth enough to play. I didn't get any kills though, shame that, but if you're wanting to play a bit of Fortnite, you're not going to be breaking the bank to do it. I ran this game at 1080p on a medium graphics preset. Forza Motorsport initially locked the frame rate to 30 FPS, which I ran a lap at Hockenheim, and it was raining as well, and for the most part, it felt okay. Apologies for my bad driving, I'm too used to F1 sensitivities, not that I was any better there, but I did manage to unlock this frame rate in the graphics settings menu, which unfortunately did give me an error message about VRAM limitations. I ran the game at 1080p and everything set to auto, which I think, to be honest, meant low anyway, and I was hitting the late 40s with an average FPS of 40. So all in all, not too bad, but the game certainly didn't look very shiny at all, but at least it was playable. Now, this game I wanted to try because I am currently running through it at the moment and I am enjoying it, so I wanted to see if it would run on 10-year-old hardware. And it did, just about. It came up with a warning straight away that the VRAM wasn't big enough and there could be performance issues, and inside of the game I literally had to tank the settings down to a 1080p low preset to get anything smooth enough to play. But when I did, my average FPS hit around the mid-30s, whereas at a medium preset it was in the 20s and very noticeably glitchy. Helldivers 2 got me nervous. It never worked on one of my graphics card's videos before, so I wasn't holding out much hope. Strangely enough though, it did, and running everything on a low 1080p resolution preset, which by the way was lower than the recommended Steam Deck settings, it ran smoothly and I was even getting a decent 50 FPS out of it, though the average on screen showed 40s as my average because the pod drop skewed that because that was proper laggy. Overwatch 2, what can I say? I'm a massive fan of this game, which I ran twice because the first time you can see on screen now, I stupidly locked my FPS to 60. It still played beautifully in the first game, but it did skew my average FPS for the second game, of which I was getting closer to the 120s in terms of frame rates. By game 3, I reset the benchmark and was capturing average frame rates of around 140 FPS, which was absolutely stellar for a game running at 1080p on a medium graphics preset. Space Marine 2 did shock me that it actually worked. I was really expecting an error on launch through Steam, but it ran, which was interesting to say the least. I ran the game at 1080p in both low and medium quality presets, and on low the PC achieved an average frame rate in the late 50s and it felt really smooth. Unfortunately, it didn't look that great though, so there's that trade-off. It loses all of its shine compared to a high-end gaming PC, but it's absolutely playable if you want to make your way through the story mode. On a medium graphical preset though, it wasn't even worth the added texture. Not only did it give me an error message for not having enough graphics memory to run a medium preset, it became a bit slow in terms of input and timing my blocks was getting hard. I'd run it in low as well. So is the GTX 970 worth it in 2024? Well, from what I saw, I would say yes, it managed to play pretty much every single modern game I threw at it bar Black Ops 6, but looking at reports online, that game seems to be buggy for pretty much everyone anyway, so I'm unsure if it was just me that it was affecting. The VRAM issue though is still an issue, and there are other options out there for a similar price to what I paid for this card to get that full 4GB advantage, but I'm unsure right now on how much of a difference it would make. Maybe a follow-up video could be interesting for you. Anyway, this has been the MSI GTX 970, an extremely popular card for the time, and yes, if you want a cheap rig to play some games in 2024, it could potentially get you by. Thank you very much for watching this video of the GTX 970. If you did enjoy it, then please hit that like button, subscribe to keep up with our latest tech and gaming videos, and also let us know in the comments down below, are you still rocking a GTX 970 in your rig, or have you got a GTX 980 and are still playing modern games and are experiencing good results? Let us know in the comments down below. As I say, thanks very much for watching and we'll see you in the next video.